One of my neighbors picked himself up a used table saw. It was his father-in-law's, and it's been stored out in a damp garage, and you can see the rust on it is pretty bad. So we're gonna bring this girl back to life today and get it all set up. We've had the wings off to transport it, and now the wings are just loosely on there. And we are going to use lots of this WD-40. Now, stop rolling your eyeballs back in your head. I'm going to tell you a little story about WD-40. I used to work in the aerospace bearing industry, and we use this stuff by the 55-gallon drum. This is a great cleaner, a great water displacer, and not much on lubricant, but it works on all kinds of things. So even as a penetrating oil, it works well too. So don't ever negate something that has been used on a part of a bearing that has over $10,000 worth of process done to it. And I figure if it's good enough for aerospace bearings, companies like Pratt & Whitney, Lockheed Martin, Apache, Bell Helicopters, Sikorsky, and NASA, it's good enough for the home shop. And it's not expensive either. So we're going to use WD-40 to start with, some 220 grit wet dry, and a block. And we're just going to soak it down and wet sand it. So we're flooded down, and you can see the machining marks in here. It's been Blanchard ground. And we're starting with 220. And we're not going to raise much dust because my buddy has COPD. So this will help keep the dust down too. Do you have a rag run? Paper towel? That will be fine. And just in that short of a time, we have got one heck of a difference. We're going to have no problem bringing this back. This is the original blade that came with the saw, and it's kind of gummed up. So we went to the dollar store and we got alcohol-based hand sanitizer. And while we're sanding, we're just going to goop a bunch of that on and let it sit. And that'll clean it up nicely. And the hand sanitizer is $1.50, $2 maybe. Like I said, I got it at the dollar store, so it wasn't expensive. So we'll just spread that around. And I don't imagine it's going to hurt anything if you get it on your fingers because it's hand sanitizer. How much safer can you get than that? And we'll just put it on there and let it work for a while too. Well, we've got it sanded to 400 grit. Wet sanded with the WD-40. Now we're going to get all the crud off it. I'm just going to use some naphtha, which is also white gas or Coleman fuel or camp stove fuel or lighter fluid. It's all naphtha. And this is not the time to have a smoke. Nice and clean. And right now it's rusting. So what I like to do is I like to just use a furniture wax. You can use Johnson's, and I've got that cut about 10 to 20% with 3-in-1 oil. So it lubricates and it's a rust preventative. You can also use something fancy like that, but that's expensive stuff. So, and I just use a red Scotch-Brite pad, and we'll get her a nice coat and let her dry and buff it off. And do this as soon as possible after getting the metal exposed, because metal likes to return to its original state, and in the case of iron, that's iron oxide, which is rust. So we'll get it sealed off from the moisture and air right away. Well, the table's looking reasonably nice. So now we're going to level up the wings. So a reasonably straight edge is what we need for that. So right here, this is the wing, and this is the table saw top, and that's the seam. Right there. So if I put the straight edge on just the table saw top and this one wing, you can see we've got movement here. So we know that this table is bent down a little bit, tilted down. And at the back, we can see it's tilted up on that corner. And I don't think we're quite flush there either. No, it's a little high there. And you can see it's catching there, so it's a little high also there. Definitely overkill, but I went home and got my surface gauge. You can see I got a 5 thou bump right there. So we're within a couple of thou all over. Which is close enough. So the next thing we got to do is check for any slope on it. So I've got a Michitoyu, which is every bit as good, if not better, than a Starrett. So I'm going to hold it on the table, and we're going to check to see what kind of slope we got there. And we'll grab a 10 thou feeler gauge. And we'll hold it down here on the table, and we know we're out 10 thou at least. So it's got a slope up there, and that's not too bad. That one just barely gets under there. So we got to wedge this side up a little bit, and what we'll do is we'll take it apart and we'll put a piece of masking tape on the bottom. We've got 2 of the bolts loosened off. Whoops. And we'll kick the tripod. I'll just get a piece of masking tape right under there. Maybe we'll put 2 of them. And that should put a little bit of a tilt to level that out. Well, that didn't work out too bad at all. I've got almost nothing. And a little dip there of about 2 or 3 thou. And this end is almost 2 thou or so. And if I take my straight edge and an 8 thou feeler gauge, I think we're in there. Well, we've got all of our seams within 3 thou and our parallelism within under 8 thou with the feeler gauge. So now we have to adjust our blade to the miter slot. And there's lots of ways to do this, and this is probably the easiest, and it's accurate enough. First of all, we got the blade in there, and we gotta pick a victim, pick a tooth, and I'm picking that one right there, and you can see it just touches it. My square is on the miter slot, and I can feel how much that's rubbing on the square. And we'll come back here with the same tooth, and we're a little bit loose, which means our blade is tilted that way. And if anything, we want it tilted that way by a couple of thou, just for the clearance for the fence. I don't know if you can hear that. Bring that same tooth up here. So we want the back of our blade to go that way, just a touch. If anything, we want more gap between our fence and the back of the blade than the fence and the front of the blade, so it doesn't pinch and cause kickback. So we only got to move a couple of thou. And on this one, there's 2 bolts right under here that we can loosen and move it over just a touch. Nice lace touch. And this one over to this side. And just a touch heavier of a touch. I don't know if you can hear that. So we've got the fence hooked up, and we're going to go through the same procedure. Check it down here, and it's just touching. I'll come over here, and I've got quite the gap. More than what is acceptable. So on this fence, it does have some little adjusters right there. Give it a little crank. And you always want to lock it down first. Bring it back to lock the fence down. Adjust. Light. And geez, that's almost perfect. And we're almost perfect. I don't see any gap difference all the way along that fence. I think we're almost ready for a cut. It probably needs a new belt, but this is the dramatic first firing. I got the blade down just in case. Contact. Yeah, a little bit of vibration from the belt. And not too bad. Push stick.
We get done early enough. Oh, you haven't got that on, do you?
Yep, I do.
Oh, okay.
That's alright.
I'll go get another belt.
Got kind of a warpy piece of wood there, though.
It has been sitting outside. I'll give you a little piece of pressure treat if you want. 1x6.
And we'll just take a shave off of it, this, and see what happens. Not the straightest edge on it either, is there? We'll see what happens. What the heck? What's worse that could happen? Find the switch here. Definitely needs a blade. Definitely needs a blade.
Yeah.
Let me see your little big one there. Yeah, it's not too bad. It did cut. Yeah, maybe get a piece of 2x4 or something, and we'll check the calibration on the. And we'll bring it right down to 2.5 inches on the guide there. And then we'll put the cut side against the fence, and we'll see how that works out. Yeah, definitely needs a new blade. Well, I got that at 2.5, and this is out by 1/8 of an inch. 2.25. And poor lighting, but that's about as close as damn it is to swearing. There we go. Nice little Delta contractor style table saw. And same pretty much applies to any saw at all. The other thing we did, we've got 2 adjustments here for the stops for 90 and 45. So we made sure of that with the square also. Other than a belt and a blade, it's wood chopping time. Thanks for dropping by, everybody. Hope you learned a few things. Have a good day.